All right, ladies and gentlemen, so today we're going to be working on using another way that we can solve quadratic equations, and this is using something called the quadratic formula. Now, this formula will be given to you on your state reference sheet when you take your exam, so you don't have to have it memorized. But again, it's another way to do it. And it can be used to solve any quadratic, which is nice. So whether, you didn't want to worry about factoring, you didn't want to worry about completing the square, it's another option. The discriminant is something that's used in the quadratic equation, and the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Remembering, of course, that a, b, and c come from your equation, and this tells you the type of roots, and remember, roots, solutions, x-intercept are all the same thing. Tells you the types of roots you're going to get. Meaning, are they going to be integers? Are they going to be rational? Are they going to be irrational? Are they going to be something called imaginary? You're going to do more with that part of it when you get into algebra 2. Right now, you just need to know that that's what it is, and it's the part of the equation that says b squared minus 4ac. So here is the quadratic equation. So it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And again, a, b, and c come from your equation. So in this one, you have to get it set equal to 0. Okay, so if you're going to factor, if you're going to use the quadratic equation, you have to have one side equal to 0. However, you don't have to have your leading coefficient be 1. So that happens when you're trying to complete the square. So first thing I want you to do, because we have such a big formula, is I want you to write down, whenever we're doing these, after it's in the correct form, of course, what a, b, and c are. And you do need to make sure you're taking the sign of what's in front. So for number 1, we have a is 1, b is negative 12, and c is 20. Now, honestly, before I go any further, this is all calculator work. So please pause the video if you need to go get your calculator. And whenever we use a formula, we're always going to start by writing our formula down. Oops. So negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now we're going to go through and fill in our parts. So if it says negative b and b is already negative, then that's going to be 12 plus or minus negative 12 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times 20 all over 2 times 1. Now, I would, before you start trying to put it in your calculator, I want you to at least simplify the discriminant, what's underneath the square root sign, and the bottom. So this is going to be 2. This is really going to be 144, negative 12 squared. 4 times 1 times 20 is 80. And then, let's see, 144 minus 80 is going to give me 64. So we now have 2 equations, and I wrote kind of big here, but my 2 equations, and again, we're trying to find our values for x, the solutions, the roots, the zeros, whatever you're going to call it. So I now am going to have my 2 equations, if I kind of continue over here, x is going to be 12 plus the square root of 64 over 8, and x is 12 minus the square root of 64 over 8. Now is when you would want to use your calculator. So here we know, thankfully, that the square root of 64 is 8. So then this is, why did I write over 8? Oh my gosh. Hopefully you guys caught that. I was doing my square root instead of writing what I needed to write. Over 2, square root of 64 over 2. Sorry. So this would be 12 plus 8, which is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. This is 12 minus 8, which is 4, divided by 2 is 2. So my two roots are 2 and 10. And again, you could have solved this by factoring. You could have solved this by completing the square. Now we have a third method, all with algebra based, where you can use your quadratic equation. Okay? So you usually will have a choice. All right, let's try this next one. So now I need to get one side equal to 0, so I'm going to subtract 18. So 2x squared plus 9x minus 18 equals 0. I'm going to write down what A, B, and C are. So A is 2, B is 9, C is negative 18. Now, you could have divided through by 2. Oh, no, you couldn't have. Never mind, because then that would give you a decimal. Although you could have, but now we're going to start with our formula. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Fill in our parts. Negative b, so we have negative 9, plus or minus, I'm just going to fill in b squared just to save myself some space. So b squared is 81. 4 times a times c, so this is going to be plus 144, because minus 4, negative 18 is going to turn it into a plus. And then 2 times 2 is 4. And again, I just tried to save myself a little bit of space here. So we have negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 225 all over 4. So my two equations, plus the square root of 225 over 4 minus the square root of 225 over 4. The square root of 225 is 15. So negative 9 plus 15 divided by 4 is 1.5. I have to write up here, I'm sorry. And x is negative 9 minus 15 divided by 4 and negative 6. Right? You should put those in your fancy brackets, but I, again, ran out of space here. Okay? All right, let's try another one. So we have, excuse me. So it's already set equal to 0. So my A is 4, B is negative 24, C is 35. So we're going to start. Notice, no matter which method we're using, factoring, graphing, completing the square, or your quadratic equation, we're always getting two answers for x because it's x squared. Okay, so there's my formula. I'm going to fill in my values. So negative, that's negative of a negative, so that's 24. And again, just to save some space, I'm going to try to do some of this on my calculator. So that's 576. Let's see, negative 4 times 35 is going to give me minus 560 all over 8. So 24 plus or minus the square root of 16. Well, that one's kind of nice. All over 8. Square root of 16 I know is 4. So this is, oops, sorry, hit a button. Let me go back down. So we have 24 plus 4 divided by 8. And x is 24 minus 4 divided by 8. So 28 divided by 8 is 3.5. And 20 divided by 8 is 2.5. And again, you usually list them in order from biggest to smallest. Okay, so, well, there you go. I guess I don't know what else to tell you there. All right, let's try the next one. So I need to get my 9 on one side, so I'm going to subtract 9. And again, if you can do that in your head, you don't have to show the minus 9. Some of you are now to the point where you can do that. So we're going to write out A is 3, B is negative 2, C is negative 9. I'm going to write my formula, negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then I'm going to fill in my numbers. So the negative of a negative is positive 2. I have a little bit more room, so I'm going to write all of this out. Negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 9 all over 2 times 3. So, let's see, we're going to have 2 plus or minus square root of 4 plus, so we have 4 times 3 times 9, which is 108 all over 6. So my two equations, I'm going to add these together and set up my equations at the same time. 2 plus the square root of 112 over 6, and 2 minus the square root of 112 over 6. It did tell us to round to the nearest tenth in our directions earlier, so I'm going to do that obviously when I do this. So for this one, we're getting rounded to the nearest tenth, 2.1. And let's see, 2 minus the square root of 112, and then divide by 6, and negative 1.4, rounded to the nearest tenths. Okay, let's see what we have next here. Oh, so this one, and we're actually going to kind of save this for class, I think, is now it's taking one problem and it's going to go through the 4 different methods with you. Graphing, factoring, completing the square, and using your quadratic equation. So we're going to save, like I said, we'll save this one for class, but any questions, go back. It's a lot of calculator work. You don't have to have the formula memorized, which is kind of nice. Any questions again, bring them to class. Have a good night, guys.